Adam Taxon talking with Daniel Greenfield, a.k.a. Sultan Kanish, about his column for Tuesday, May 29th, 2012, which is called About That Race War. Daniel, welcome. And, I was thinking, this is exactly the kind of thing that is perfect for us to have a discussion on and to provide the audio version of for people to listen to in their car or while they're walking their dog, whatever. Because it's the kind of thing you're just not going to see on the mainstream media, including Fox. And this is really what we're trying to accomplish. Neither of us is getting rich from doing these audio things, but your thoughts on that at all?
Well, the media is not out to inform people or to have serious discussions. What the media is out to do is reinforce the same narrative, and discussion is the antidote of that, because a discussion, and to what extent especially, means questioning things. You have to ask questions. You have to wonder, maybe I don't know everything, or maybe my assumptions are wrong, and that's the opposite of the media's function. The media's function is to reinforce that sense that you already know everything, that there's nothing more to discuss.
Right, and of course to sell commercials, as those of us who use Google AdSense know, but that's off topic. Now, here you are raising a question whether the race war is really a race war, and you say early on that the term war implies a level of organization, and later on you make the point that how can you really blame a lot of these black so-called youths for behaving the way they did? Their minds have been sort of geared from birth to attack white people. Am I being fair there?
Yes, essentially we've created a system where the most racist propaganda, where the most racist ideas that would dehumanize white people are being put out by the liberal institutions of white people. And you have to look at that and wonder, if you grow up that way, if you're getting messages from all sides, including from the educational system, that says that white people are conducting a race war against you, well, then you can't entirely blame people for internalizing that. I mean, you can blame them for acting on it, but you can't entirely blame them for growing up poisoned that way. And it's not just the Nation of Islam, it's not just Louis Farrakhan, it's not just those guys doing it. It's the popular culture, it's the educational system run by liberals that's doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was an excellent point. And you make an interesting point that the black teenagers are somewhat to blame. You say toward the end, for while he may not know the nature of the game, his cruelty is active. And it almost reminds me of the Egyptians in the Torah, like persecuting the Jews, in the sense that they were almost divinely commanded to do so. It was part of their fate and destiny, but they took particular pleasure in their cruelty, and it seems like you're making that point here as well.
Yes, people grow up with things, but they're also responsible for them. For example, Nazi Germany, there was a generation that essentially grew up with anti-Semitism. In the Muslim world, people grow up with anti-Semitism as the norm. It doesn't mean they're now responsible for it. The Muslim child who grows up believing that non-Muslims are inferior is still responsible for the actions that he takes. For example, like the Asian sex grooming gangs in the UK. Just being grown up with this indoctrination doesn't excuse you from doing the right thing. But at the same time, it's important to understand where this is coming from.
Right. And you make a point that 21st century America is a really strange place, and that it's actually among the least racist places of all time. And that's the irony here. And I'm not sure what the question I really have for you is here, but maybe you want to expand on that a little bit.
Well, comparatively, if you compare it to any other place in the world, America is the least racist country in the world, really. I mean, can you name any other country in the world where you could actually have this level of absorption, of integration of a large-scale minority? It's basically inconceivable. Right. And even compared to the United States, even the worst stuff compared to the sort of casual hatred that are routine, and even in Europe, there's just no comparison.
And you also talk a lot in this column about entitlements. And you start off by saying crack is a minor addiction compared to entitlements at one point. And you said that that's a lot of what's to blame here. And, I almost think a lot of black America must think of white America as just chumps and have a total contempt for people who would be this stupid to begin with. I don't know if that's your line of thinking at all, but I would certainly think that way.
That's certainly part of it, but the other part of it, of course, is that if someone keeps giving you something for free, you have to end up deciding, well, that you have it coming. And that's the very poisonous part. Why do you have it coming? Well, because you're better than they are. Either they're very guilty or you're just a superior type of human being.
Final question, and I don't want to get into the weather too much, but it was a very hot Memorial Day weekend in the Northeast, and it certainly has all signs of being a hot summer, which is probably only a minor factor in race relations. But what do you anticipate will happen this summer in terms of racial attacks? Are things going to get worse? Will Obama want to call things off because it might hurt his electoral chances? What do you see in the next 3 months?
Well, we've got bad economy. We've got high humidity and hot weather. Those are not good overlaps. Bad economy, certain amount of racial tensions create themselves in that kind of environment.
The column is About That Race War. Daniel Greenfield's material can be found at sultankanish.blogspot.com, and I encourage people to get in the habit of just listening on their phones and listening to this worthwhile information that Daniel is providing. It takes a while to get used to listen on your phone or to turn it into an MP3 and put it on your iPod, but it's worth it, and there's a definite learning curve in doing so. Daniel, thanks for your time today.
Good.